Hello and welcome to the Photo Brigade Podcast, podcast number 2 for this evening at Adorama's event space. I've got Michael Ipp. How you doing, Michael?
Doing great.
Talk into the microphone.
Doing great.
That's better. So as always, before we get started, I just want to say thank you to Adorama, their event space, for letting us do the podcast here and using their awesome space here, adorama.com/events. Thanks to Canon Professional Services for all your support, as well as Temba Bags. And also, please, we have a really cool YouTube page where you can see these podcasts and all of our other events. So please hit the subscribe button, show us that you're supporting us, and that helps get that information to your feeds and everything, so you don't miss a minute of this engaging podcast with Michael. So anyhow, Ipster, did you come in from Barcelona just for this?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
So we should do it back this up a little bit. Michael now lives in Barcelona. Right. Barceloneta, actually.
Barceloneta neighborhood in Barcelona.
It's a little tricky there, but you and I have known each other. I think we met on the interwebs at first.
It's a photo community, yeah.
Yeah, photo community stuff. And when we first met, you were a photo editor, pretty much, and you still are. You still do photo editing on the side, but you've changed. You're starting to shoot more.
Constantly morphing. That's a term I like to use. Evolving.
Evolving as a photographer, right? So let's talk a little bit about your background. How did you get into the photo business? Where you're from? All that kind of stuff that led you to New York City years back.
Right. Sure. I mean, I'm talking about evolving my career as a photographer, photo editor. I feel like it's not just a photo thing that I've been constantly evolving. I started off as an engineer. Oh. And that was sort of like that was my education. That was my first real experience in the real world. And from there, I sort of evolved to the next step, which for me was the military.
Oh, that's right. I forgot you were in the military.
Yeah. So I did 4 years in the Army, active duty and all that. And from there, sort of like, I just constantly sort of sped up the evolution process. I spent 15 months in Iraq where I actually met my mentor, who is, she's a reporter down in Austin, Texas or something. But I met some really great people being in Iraq, and that sort of put me on the path, redirecting being that I needed to be a creative person. I need to constantly be creating things. And the whole engineering process was just too slow for me. I needed to speed it up a bit.
So you were an engineer in the Army?
No. I was an engineer before the Army.
Oh, okay.
In the Army, I was a field artillery officer.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And then when I got out, I'm like, how can I fulfill my creative desire? And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go study photojournalism. I went to Western Kentucky, and basically from there, I just sort of like fast tracked and just. I'm going to learn as much as I can, go right back to New York and just start shooting. I see, a couple people that have worked for the Daily News in the past. I had a chance meeting with Mike Lipak, who used to be the director of photography at Daily News. Had a 30-minute conversation with him. We just hit it off right away. And he just basically like, you want a job?
Nice.
Sure. And that's sort of how I got started.
Give me a timeline. When was that?
That was in 2008.
2008. Okay.
Yeah. I met him in 2008. I started working for the Daily News in 2009 basically he was like, I could give you some freelance work, but you're a little raw. I'll do something for you. I'm going to create a full-time internship for you. I'll sort of like lead you along, help you develop, and basically I started June of 2009. And through basically 4 months worth, just shot every single day, like really, really learning the city, learning how to really do, the load of assignments that's required for a newspaper photographer. And once that bit ended, he sort of like, I want to keep you on as a freelancer, and that's what I did. I shot freelance for a while. And being a freelance photographer yourself, you sort of know that grind can sort of really tire you out.
Sure.
And a chance opportunity to start working on the editing desk at the Daily News, and I jumped at that opportunity. I was like, you know what, this is a skill set I could pick up, and I'm still going to shoot.
You like looking at other people's photos?
Yeah, I mean, because like my teachers when I was at Western Kentucky, they were always like, you learn to become a better photographer by looking at good photography. And, there's some of the best photographers in the city working for the Daily News. And I was like, this is an opportunity to really, and I'm not just talking about their final product. You're looking at their raw takes or their slight edited takes. You really, really get to see how they're thinking, how they approach a big assignment, anywhere from, the World Series to the Super Bowl to just like a Sunday food assignment. Watching like professionals that have been doing this for 20, 30 years, seeing how they approach it, like you really start to incorporating things you pick up visually into your own shooting style. So I edited there for about 2 years, and I was like, it's time to get back to shooting, and then sort of at that point, I've just made that transition, jumping back and forth between shooting and editing. Mm-hmm.
We got our New York City fire truck or police car going by. Sorry about that. So you only edited really for 2 years?
No. Well, after I left, because they hired me on staff to be an editor, and then I left, but I continued editing for them on a freelance basis.
That's right.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
And so, what do you think about are you glad that you've except for those 2 years that you did the sort of staff thing, that you've been freelance ever since? Do you think that that's the way to go?
Well, no. Because I was actually thinking about this yesterday about. Because people are always like, oh, I want a staff job here, staff job here. My theory on staff jobs is, especially the environment that the industry is in right now, is, to me, a lot of staff jobs are very restricting. They pay you less. The benefits, frankly, aren't that great. You're sort of stuck doing every assignment they give you. You can't say no, So to me, I see a staff job as an opportunity to sort of like expand your network. A lot of my biggest freelance clients are actually places that I worked as staff. I'll still do freelance work for the Daily News. I'll still do freelance work for Newsweek. Because I've already forged that relationship. They know I'm dependable. They know the quality of work I do. And to me, having that staff job is sort of like you get to take a break a little bit from the hustle and bustle of being a freelancer. But at the same time, you're not losing anything when you finally give up that staff job,
Right.
Like, to me, I don't see a staff job in this environment as something you work on for 30 years, 35 years, and retire.
Right.
To me, a staff job is something you work at for a year and a half, 2 years tops, and then you leave.
Stamp it on your resume.
You maintain those bonds, and then you just inherited a freelance client.
Yeah.
Because who are they going to trust more? Someone who they've never hired, don't know the system, don't know everybody, don't know how to pitch, don't know how their style is, or someone who's been doing it full time for a number of years, and they already know the quality of your work, they know your character, they know how you think, they know that you have the same level of standards that they do, and that's sort of been my approach to constantly jumping back between staff and freelance positions.
Interesting. And so you've been in New York for quite some time,
Right.
but then recently, and I think this is in the last 6 months or so, or a year, I guess. How long have you
6
been?
months, yeah.
In the last 6
so
months?
I left my position at Newsweek in the first week of June, and then I moved to Spain then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was the reason for the change?
Basically, I felt that sort of that chapter of my career was just over. I hadn't planned on being at Newsweek for, again, 30, 40 years. I learned a lot. I felt that I did some really good work. I worked hard just about every single day I was there, and I just felt it was just time to move on. Continue to evolve, and to me, it was to tackle something that I'd never done before, which was to live overseas.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
And so how's the transition been? I have a love for Barcelona.
Right.
As you know, we saw each other in Barcelona
Right.
last I was there. How's that transition been?
Right off the bat, I had made tons and tons of plans of what I was going to do and my expectations of how work would come to me and all that. And basically none of that happened, but ironically, different opportunities came up in that I'd never planned for, So, having the preparation and knowing how to just assimilate into the environment, knowing how to adjust based on what's available has paid off tremendously. Like if I did this 5 years ago, I'd be broke and I'd be back in New York in 3 months.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. And now you're in New York, and it's only been 6 months, right?
Yeah.
So I want to dive into, I want to show a little bit of your work so people that are watching can kind of get an idea of what you do. But you've really gotten yourself, you kind of have a passion for fashion.
Right.
A fashion passion.
Well, I guess I'll give you a little background on how I started doing this work. When I was still at the Daily News, I would do a lot of crime, fires, kind of stuff, and when obviously New York Fashion Week is a big deal, and the Daily News would cover it, and they needed someone to shoot some fashion shows, and they're like, "Do you want to shoot some of this stuff?" I'm like, "Yeah, I guess so. It's not something I've ever done before. I might as well give it a shot." Mm-hmm. And I liked it. It was something that was completely different to me.
I'm gonna let you drive the slideshow while we do.
Yeah, I guess the ordering is probably in reverse from what I want to describe. But when I first started shooting fashion, I sort of started to approach it from a reportage approach, just basically what I knew, and that sort of eased me into like the whole world of fashion. Like doing some of this backstage stuff, trying to find the moments, trying to find the relationships between the subjects, and and just trying to find like cool little frames that it's related to the fashion world, but technically isn't the kind of stuff you'd see in a Vogue or a Vanity Fair or something. But this was my introduction to the fashion world, and this is the part of photography that I don't ever want to give up, because I love reportage.
Yeah, me too.
It's just that for me, I'm just continuing to evolve. I'm sort of taking what I know and bringing it forward to what my next step would be, So something like this, like like backstage shots, for me, I'm approaching it exactly as I would approach, say, a crime scene or shooting a refugee story or shooting any kind of daily kind of assignment. I approach it the same exact way. I'm looking for just little soft moments. I'm looking for composition. I'm looking for just anything that's a little different. And
so yeah, and we should also mention that you are you shot all these with Leica. You're a Leica shooter, right?
Yeah. All the reportage stuff I only shoot with Leica. Obviously, I have some runway stuff in the slideshow that you sort of need the autofocus for that, because they move tremendously fast. You got like 6 foot tall women with like their long leg just like dashing down the runway, and like you sort of need the autofocus for that.
Yeah.
But but a lot of this stuff, and this is another story I shot. I shot this one for Newsweek, just basically on, what it's like to be backstage of New York Fashion Week. And I totally came to this. I from the get go, I was like, I'm gonna shoot this pure reportage. I'm shooting it black and white. This was not shot in color. This was shot in black and white. And because I wanted it to be more about the moments, more about the relationships than the actual fashion and the kind of stuff you'd be used to seeing in a fashion show. And that's, again, I approach this as if you would have put me on assignment to go shoot refugees for a week. Mm-hmm. I shot this as if I was shooting that.
Do you have any tips for people that, you probably, on top of this, you probably also shot some regular runway work,
Oh, absolutely, yeah,
and this is just like
this is all side stuff. This was not anything assigned.
Right.
This was, okay, I get to the show 2 hours early. I'm going backstage where they're getting hair and makeup done. They're joking around, whatever. And that's where the cool pictures are. The runway stuff, it's a formula. You get full length, quarter length. You get details of their shoes, details of their bags, makeup, things like that. That's sort of a formula. But the backstage is where you'll get the emotions, and you'll see like the models are. I'm on the runway. They're models. They're there to sort of show off the clothes. Backstage is where you see like the human aspects of them.
Right.
You know, their relationships to the makeup artist, the hair artist, to each other, to the designer. And that to me is where, to me, that's sort of like the bonus of getting to do all this stuff.
Right. Right. I enjoy the backstage much more as well than covering the actual fashion aspect of it.
Right.
So you've been covering not only was this all New York Fashion Week that you've been showing, but you also are covering different fashion weeks now all over the world.
I'll generally do New York. I'll generally go to Milan right after that. I skip London just because it's a smaller fashion week. Generally, you won't get as much work out of London. But I'll go to New York, take a little break, go to Milan. After Milan, I'll go to Paris.
Right.
Had
you always been shooting all of the fashion weeks, or?
No, this February, or I guess March, will be the first time I'm doing Paris. But I've done Milan in the past.
And do you think that this is going to be why is it that you have this passion for it so much? Obviously you're a fashionable guy. Usually you're better dressed than anyone in the room.
Right. It's
Right,
just something.
It's true.
It's just something that it interests me. It's like, it's not that serious, but it is serious. It's billions and billions of dollars worth of commerce based off of how these designers show off their collections. But at the same time, it's just essentially like a presentation.
Right.
So you have all these different aspects of it where it's really serious, but it's not serious. And then they sort of converge together, and that's what it is.
Yeah.
And that to me is the predictability of it, but also the unpredictability of it combined makes it it interests me a lot more than, say, shooting fires and crime every single day, where it's constantly predictable, and it's constantly it gets monotonous. This to me doesn't get monotonous. This to me, you're trying to shoot it in different ways once you get the standard stuff, like sort of like the calculated stuff, the formulated runway stuff, and then you it's very colorful, it's lively, it's very kinetic. And that's how I try to approach it. I shoot it like it's a sport, like it's news, not like a presentation.
Mm-hmm. And you get some interesting angles there too. They were just walking right by you there. That's
literally
runways.
from me to you,
Yeah.
And because of it, it's very fast, and you almost become reactive to it, and then you get some cool stuff like that. And that's the kind of stuff that the standard runway stuff. I feel everyone that shoots a runway gets the same shots. But then you sort of have to branch out a little bit and sort of inject your style into it a little bit.
Right. Yeah. And so it's interesting, you and I also, and we should bring it into our background, which is, photojournalism.
That's the last slide.
Oh, this is the last slide for it. Nice last slide. Something there. So let's talk about workshops.
Right.
You and I have been... I've been a producer. You've been doing 11:30 Club, right?
I produced once at.
Oh, you produced. Did you produce this last year?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Duh. I'm sorry. Excuse me. But we were both producers last year at Eddie Adams. As you know, it's just a whirlwind. So sorry, I messed that up. But how important do you think workshops, things like that, are for students or early professionals?
I think especially for younger students, younger professionals, it's extremely important because on one level, they're working with some of the best in the industry. Like for my team, for instance, my team leader was Daniel Barahulak, who won the Pulitzer last year, and my team editor was Tim Rasmussen, who's I believe has 3 Pulitzers under his belt. And for
at ESPN now,
he's the director of photography at ESPN, and young students getting the access, the ability to be mentored and to work with people of that caliber, they really see that, okay, this is not an industry where it's like, it's not a clique, it's not elitist. even the best of the best are humble. They're willing to give back. They're willing to help mentor, and then they realize they're building a network right there. And for a workshop like Eddie Adams, I think 100 students, and you'll have 30 faculty members. You have speakers like James Noctway, John Stanmeyer, and people like that speaking, and it really sort of brings these people down to earth, so that the students can see that these are human beings. These are not demigods.
Right.
These are human beings that have just done this for a long time, done really well, done great work, but they're still human beings like you and me.
What was it like for you producing your first workshop? I know for me it was difficult the first time, but you kind of got a hang of it. Was it difficult? What was your thoughts of it?
For me, I thought I was expecting it to be very difficult, so I spent a lot of time preparing for everything. I think we have to prepare 10 or find 10 stories, one story for each student. And I think going into the weekend, I had 18 stories because I'm not letting the students down. I'm not gonna fail the faculty, and I thought I might have overdone it, but it worked out fine. All the students had a great time. They did good work, and I still talk to them. And they'll ask me for edits. They'll ask me for advice on stories, and that to me is, I think I would call that a success, because that's what the workshops are about, to sort of mentor younger photographers and sort of give them a little guidance. If they need help negotiating a contract, they need help with the edit, they need help with how to approach a story. That's what we're here for.
Right. That's really, I've found that every time I've gone to a workshop, whether it be Eddie Adams' workshop or another. Have you done any other workshops other than Eddie Adams?
Not really. I had planned on doing Missouri. I had planned on doing Mountain, but neither of those have actually.
I haven't been to either of those either. Yeah.
I'll go to a lot of the festivals and all that.
Right.
But Perpignan, Look 3, Northern Shore Course.
So I've never been to Perpignan. Let's talk a little bit about Perpignan.
Sure.
What's the experience like there? It seems like. Everyone. It seems like that's like fear of missing out sort of thing when I'm not. I've not ever been there, but you see people are there having a good time. What's the whole deal? What's
Perpignan to me is like a swap meet. You go there. Actually, no. It's more like a elementary school or middle school dance. You go there, a lot of times you don't know many people, especially the first couple times you go, or if you're young in your career. You just go and everyone's friendly. You meet a lot of people from tons of different countries, tons of Europeans, tons of Asians, tons of Middle East, Africa, American, and you build a lot of relationships. As a photographer, you try to meet as many editors as you can, but you also make a lot of friends there. As an editor, you try to look as much new work as possible, discover new talent. And throughout the week, at nights they'll have projections of works. During the days they'll have galleries that you could actually go to and have the photographers sort of answer questions about their work. And it's sort of like, to me, it's sort of like the mecca of what photojournalism is. You go there and it's like a summer camp in a way, for professional photojournalists. And anyone who hasn't gone or who's thinking about going, I'd highly recommend going at least once.
Yeah.
And I'll say the first time you go, it's extremely overwhelming. Yeah. Second time, less so, and so on and so forth. But especially going as a photographer, it's like you're trying to get meetings with editors. You're trying to just not drink too much,
right?
And
I'm sure there's plenty of that going on.
Yeah, of course. You're drinking till a lot of people 4 or 5 a.m. They close the main bar there for an hour, start it up at 6 a.m. again.
Yeah.
And but that's what it is. It's just like a week of just I don't even know the word for it. It's just immense saturation of photojournalism.
Does anything come close to it in terms of festivals, other festivals? There's festivals here in New York, for instance.
Right. Honestly, I wouldn't say so. I'd say the Look 3 comes the closest, but Look 3 isn't even close to the size of it.
Right.
And look 3 is very well done.
Yeah.
But I feel look 3 is more just like it centers around American photography,
Right.
whereas Perpignan is very centered around all over the world.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, you have photographers from all over the world that are there represented. They show their work, have talks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's get back into more of your the editing. Let's talk about
Sure.
sort of things that you've learned to build yourself up as a photographer. Maybe give some tips to the listeners who are trying to get in touch with editors, Newsweek editors, and such.
Right.
Since you were one, what's the best way?
I mean, honestly, to really, as a photographer, to really, get in touch with editors and all that, and build personal relationships. I think especially in this day and age especially in New York, where it's extremely competitive getting, meetings with editors and all that, the best way to really forge that kind of relationships, like, get to know them. Send them an email, be like, hey, can I buy you a coffee? Or can we go meet for a drink or something? And
Sometimes it's not that hard, not that easy because they don't live in New York or something. Well,
right. I mean, but like, you could create dialogue over email or
social.
Yeah, or social. Be like, hey, I saw this work that you did or that you ran in your magazine or whatever. Can I talk to you about it a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a Skype session, maybe whatever. Anything that sort of get you in the door to sort of try to build that kind of relationship, because the editor photographer relationship, it has to be a good fluid working relationship. If you have all the talent in the world and I'm an editor that just can't utilize your talent, it's not going to be a good relationship. You might want work from me, I might want to hire photographers, but if our styles just don't mesh, if our personalities don't mesh, that just doesn't work. So I mean, and you have networking events, like an event like this where there's photographers and editors come watch. Like the Beer and Wings event. If you guys don't know, it's a monthly event that myself and Tanner Curtis run the second Tuesday of every month.
It's awesome.
Yeah. You got lots of photographers, editors, agency reps. And just people interested in photography coming there every single month, just have a good time to talk. It's a very casual environment where
this is for a little background. This is actually just a gathering that started with a couple booths or something and has morphed into 100 plus each time.
The goal of it is pretty much to go drink beer and eat chicken wings,
and network.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that have built friendships and relationships out of this event.
Absolutely.
Gotten work out of it, gotten hired for staff positions out of it. And that to me, like, when we started this event, our goal was to really create a kind of environment where it was all inclusive, it wasn't cliquey, and to sort of help promote the socialness of the community. Because I mean, the New York photo community is amazing,
right?
But at times I feel like it could get pretty cliquey.
Oh, sure.
You'll have the war photographers here. You'll have the portrait photographers here. You have the younger guys, the older guys,
sure.
And from the get-go, we decided we couldn't have any kind of rules who can be part of it or not. If you're interested in photography, you're welcome, and I think that's sort of a big part of the success of the group and the event is that everyone is invited.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, I can't recommend Beer and Wings, which happens like, what day was it? It's always the first.
It's the second Tuesday of the month.
Tuesday of the month. Usually this happens at Professor Tom's,
right.
Down in the East Village, would that
East
be?
Village,
East
yeah.
Village, Professor Tom's. So definitely check that out.
Their wings are really good.
Their wings are really good.
I'm not being paid to say that. It's just really good.
My mother owned a chicken wing restaurant for 18 years, and their wings are pretty good.
Yeah.
They're chicken wings,
yeah.
right? And also, you might want to try the nachos. Have you seen the nachos?
Nachos are pretty good.
Oh, that's insane.
Get like 4 friends, though. They're massive.
More than 4. Okay, so what else is going on in your world? I mean, are you doing much commercial work?
I'm doing a little bit. I'm that sort of direction I'm starting to push. I just opened my studio in Barcelona in the beginning of the month. And that to me is a big milestone in my career because I don't want to say it brings legitimacy to it, but it gives me a platform to really start bringing in new clients, being like, hey, meet me at my studio, at this time, and
So classy.
and then, they come, there's something about it when a photographer has like a full studio with, and like, I mean, a full studio, like, your infinity wall, you got your makeup station, you got your full kitchen, you got your workstations. Like, that says something about you. Like, you're not messing around there. And that, to me, like, just to set a baseline is something that needed to happen. And I started that the beginning of this month. And from there, I'm just going to be really, I'm already starting to talk with a couple clients, potentially, do a lot of, studio fashion work, but then also branch out.
Was it a significant investment to get a studio?
It wasn't, because I'm sharing with a couple other guys in Barcelona,
Okay.
and they've had the studio for a few months already. They
Cool.
just essentially needed one more partner to sort of share the cost and sort of like build the little community, which was that studio. And, it was a perfect fit. We all got along well. We're all the same, more or less the same kind of photographers. They're all portrait fashion photographers as well.
Right.
And then we just sort of throw ideas off each other and just sort of,
It's interesting these days. I mean, it's like you're seeing, as most editorial photographers, it's hard to just make a living off of editorial work.
Right, absolutely.
Strictly editorial work. You've got to branch out.
I mean, absolutely. Even the top editorial photographers, they're doing weddings, they're doing advertising, they're doing commercial, they're doing corporate, because you got to do that. You can't survive on a $300, $250 day rate. You're just, maybe if you're single, you start having family, you start having a mortgage, you can't do that.
It's true.
It's not sustainable. I mean, unless you want to live in a 300 square foot apartment for the rest of your life, it's just not sustainable.
Yeah. Do you have any tips? Is it just branching out, diversifying your client base, and not only journalistically but commercially, investing? I mean, it's like, what's a guy to do? What's a guy or gal to do?
I mean, I think my number one advice would be constantly invest in yourself. Never stop learning. I mean, if say you're primarily a news photographer, well, learn lighting, learn how to shoot portraits, learn how to shoot, because you learn how to edit. Whatever, you're always gonna have your dry spells, and to sort of fill those dry spells in, you sort of have to diversify a little bit.
Yeah.
Will I ever be just the editor again? Maybe, but right now, if I need to pick up some freelance work, it's very easy to pick up freelance editing work.
Uh-huh.
I can't just fly to New York and be like, I need 7 days of shooting work. It's just not going to happen. But I could do that with editing. With all the different clients I have, I'll just be like, hey, I'm gonna be in New York for this week. Do you need any freelance editors in this time? And from all my past clients and current clients, I usually don't have enough. I don't have any problem filling up my schedule with editing work.
Interesting.
So
is that what you're doing to kind of fly back and forth, pay for that
yeah,
flight?
absolutely. I mean, I will pick up editing work to sort of subsidize my trips. Subsidize personal projects, and that's another thing. You absolutely need to do personal work to really advance yourself, because you're pushing yourself. You're going to fail in a lot of that stuff, but from failing in certain projects, you're really learning new things.
Right.
When I started out, doing some of this fashion stuff, for instance. I mean, I look back, some of my initial stuff was terrible. It was, the compositions were a little off. You could tell my timing was off because I didn't know what was coming next. I didn't know how to really position myself to get good compositions. Mm-hmm. But looking back and reviewing your work and knowing where your work falls short is how you're really going to get better. Mm-hmm. Going back to what I'll say, when I first became an editor, I got the opportunity to really look at a lot of work. Well, you could learn a lot by looking at your work too. And reflecting. It's sort of like that, what's that Plato saying, like the examined life isn't worth living kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It's sort of like you have to look back at your older work and sort of like re-examine it and sort of learn from it, see how far you've come, and know how much further you have to go.
Yeah.
You know.
Very good advice. Very good advice.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's like you're great. You just keep giving out great bits of knowledge there. What's the future hold for you? I mean, how often do you plan to come back to New York? I know you and I are planning to do a little something that we're going to potentially put together here, which will be cool, and we'll keep everyone posted on. But you know, that would involve coming in regularly. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like, I mean, flying so much, I've built so much air miles and status and all that, which is like completely another discussion, but it's almost become part of my life, you know.
Cost of doing business, travel.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I just have factored in my monthly expenses. I'm gonna have that ticket to the U.S. once a month. You know?
What's lucky about you and not for me is that it's the going from Barcelona, round trip from Barcelona to New York and back to Barcelona is like half the price as what it cost me to do a round trip from here.
It is a lot cheaper. Yeah.
So that's kind of lucky, and which is kind of amazing because that's almost like a trip, not even cross country here,
right?
That you can actually go internationally.
I think this trip I flew from Barcelona to New York. I will fly Barcelona and New York and back for the same price as flying from LaGuardia to Nashville back in April.
Oh gosh, yeah. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I do you have any last bits? I mean, to the young photographers that are listening, to our peers that want to kind of do what you're doing, you know, building their way into the photo. And I mean, you just did it, I think, which is cool. I mean, you showed up. I
mean, honestly, I think, and this is probably more to do with life than just photography, but like, dream big, you know?
Yeah.
Just dream big. Do something every once in a while out of your character, whether personally or professionally. And that's how you grow, you know? You'll find out what you like, what you don't like, what you're good at, what you're not good at.
Right.
You just got to constantly take, calculated risks.
How do you feel about social media? And using social media. I mean, I know that I follow you on Instagram, and you post pictures of your cat from time to time. It's not like where you put portfolio pieces at all. But how do you feel about photographers that do that?
But you know what? I see social media. It's just another creative outlet. You know, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all these other new social media outlets that I don't even have.
Snapchat.
I don't even know that. But I feel all these new platform. It's just another creative outlet, you know.
Yeah.
I know you do like the Snapchat videos or stories, right?
Yeah, you can do the stories.
And it's just another outlet, you
right.
know. Sometimes different mediums tend to let you express what you're trying to do better. And I think it's great. I mean, I think the more the better. As
an editor, do you keep up on photographers through social?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I follow tons of photographers on Instagrams. I'll even if I see a good young photographer, I'll even tell former coworkers that are like editors, like, hey, check this guy out. You need a good photographer in the Ukraine, check this guy out. You need a good photographer in France, check this guy out. And because to me it's like, it's not. I don't see it as just a job. It's or even more so than a career. It's almost like a lifestyle where we have to help each other out.
Yeah.
So if you're an up and coming photographer and I see you have great work, I want you to continue doing great work.
Right.
And by that, I wanna get you work, and so you just continue doing good work, and it's good for the industry.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be like, oh, I don't want to pass off my contacts because you might steal work from me. Like, you can't see it that way.
I think it's really important for photographers to be in that sort of world of, not trying to hide their contacts or hide.
Right.
You want everyone to do really well so that you can be able to charge top notch. You don't want people to undercut you and all that. So
exactly.
I think that's all great. I think that we've blazed through a lot of what we were going to talk about. Where can people find you on social media and online?
I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. My website.
MichaelIpp.com.
MichaelIpp.com is my fashion stuff. MikeIpp.com is my reportage.
Oh, I didn't know you had two websites.
Yeah,
interesting.
And everything else you can find through there.
Do you do that because you want to keep it separate for some reason?
Absolutely, yeah. I'll still pick up reportage work, but I want I want the styles to be very distinct from each other in terms of the content.
Right.
I don't want someone being like, I need to hire a good fashion photographer, and then he's seeing like some of the work I did in Iraq,
Right.
and it will just send the wrong message.
Right.
You know, so I want it. Yeah, I mean, it's just sort of like how some photojournalists that shoot weddings will have two different websites.
Right.
Because you want to focus and direct it differently.
Gotcha. All right. Well, Mike Ip on Instagram and also other social. Please follow us at photobrigade.com/live to see these. Hit our subscribe button for YouTube. Again, YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. Also, thanks again to Canon Professional Services, Adorama, Temba Bags, and especially Michael Ip. Thank you so much for your time, bud. And we'll see you all again next time.